with somebody. Yeah. Body all the time, never takes a break, he's always right. Working all day and every night. Money all the time, he never shifts at all, he stays the same. It'll never ever change. Money all the time, he's always on his throne, his way he rules.
Hello, welcome to GVGL Brand Talks. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Patrick van der Loo, Pfizer's regional president for the Middle East, Russia, and Africa region. While completing his degree in international management, Patrick started his career in the healthcare industry, where he finished a thesis on developing Mexico's generics industry in the early 1990s. This is where Patrick developed a deep interest in the sector. Over the course of the next 20 years, he held roles across Europe, Canada, Asia Pacific, as well as Pfizer's New York headquarters. Patrick speaks English, Dutch, German, Spanish, and French, and is passionate about healthcare, innovation, executive leadership, change management, personal and collective development. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Amazing to host you today. In our episode, Leading Your Brand with Purpose, Championing DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, we will explore the vital intersection between purpose-driven leadership and its impact on DEI programs. We will delve into how leaders can effectively align their brand's purpose with DEI initiatives to create meaningful impact both internally and externally. We will discuss actionable steps leaders can take to align their values with critical mission. Additionally, we will hear successful examples of DEI integration into a brand and purpose. We will discuss strategies for making DEI an integral part of company DNA, moving beyond pledges to tangible and lasting change. After discussing these topics, then we will play with our positivity cards and have fun. Then I will ask more personal questions to get to know my guests better. So, shall we start?
Please, let's do.
My first question is, how can leaders ensure that their brand's purpose authentically supports DEI, and what steps can they take to align these values?
So I think when you look at companies, and I'll take Pfizer as an example, our purpose is breakthroughs that change patients' lives. So if you want to change patients' lives, you need to be representative of the patients that you represent in the business that you're in. So for us, that means when you're in healthcare, you need to be representative not only of the patients, but also the people that work in healthcare. If you are serious about that, and you really want to make an impact on that, you need to take a couple of steps. Mm-hmm. And you and I met before, and I've mentioned this to you before. I think it starts by measuring basically a 0 point. Where are you in your organization? How representative of the region that you're in our case, and the genders that you're in, the races of the people that are represented in the region. How representative are you overall as an organization? So you do a 0 measurement, but then you need to be intentional about what you sign up for and in what timeline and time frame you want to achieve these things. So when I came to this region, now 3 years and a little bit ago, coming from Asia, before that coming from the Americas, I worked in Latin America, I worked globally basically. When I came to this region, we did a 0 measurement, and what you end up with was a region that had in the mid to high 30s representation of females, whereas women make up the vast majority of healthcare professionals, and obviously they make up 50% of the patient numbers. So we had a very intentional strategy to increase the female representation in the company. So in 3 years have now passed. We're now in the mid-50s when it comes to percentage points of female representation. But that's not it, right? You can have representation in your organization, but if everybody gets hired at the base level, you're still not represented throughout the organization. You get a very skewed pyramid in your organization. So step 2 in parallel was really to develop a program that we called Leadership Aspiring Female Talent in Africa, Middle East, because that was the initial focus that we had, to really train high potential female talents in the organization, give them mentors and make them ready to take on additional responsibilities and flow through the organization more quickly. after a year or two of doing this program, we also decided, okay, it's not just enough to train the females. You also need to train your men as allies, because if the bosses still are male and they still have a
Which
very
I love this project.
rusted mindset in how things work in a country organization, then that's not going to work. And I think what we did, for example, in Egypt, where we had a very stale male Gen X dominated organization, we also made intentional changes, promoting people maybe a little bit too soon, but really more representative of the overall organization, and see what would happen there. Egypt has been incredibly successful because of this, and is very representative now of the culture that we're trying to emulate in other countries in the region as well. I think the last step that we're also trying to do is then, okay, you can hire people, you can train people, you can create an organization, but you also need to create opportunities for the young talent then to more quickly flow through based on hands-on practice, not just training. So we have programs in countries, we call them 3x3x3 or 6x6x6, where we take either 3 talents, give them 3 different jobs in the organization, 3 months each, or we take 6 talents from different parts of the organization, put them 6 months in each role, and basically rotate these 6 talents through the organization in 3 years' time. So we have multiple development programs really to think through how we can develop the talent quicker. At a global level, we then also take it very seriously, where we have a top 25 and a top 100 female talent in the organization that get active mentoring and sponsoring in the organization from executive leadership team members to really help them move through the organization at an accelerated pace as well. So I think it starts with measurement, but then you need to have the program also to make sure that you don't just window dress your numbers, but you actually do something to make things happen as well.
Sounds terrific. Patrick and I met in HBA launch, Healthcare Business Women Association launch in our region, and we shared the same panel. And I heard amazing stuff about these trainings, because in International Women Board of Directors, various events we are discussing, women are trained very well. Like they are growing to keep this pace with men. But I think equally men needs education, how to empower women, how to keep the conversation also inclusive. So I think there you have a great example. So that's why I really wanted to invite you to discuss this further. So one more question. Can you share specific initiatives or programs that you have successfully integrated DEI into your brand's purpose? And what measurable impact have you had in your organization? I know you dealt a bit, but let's explore further.
Yeah, I think, again, it's interesting, right? So the culture across the region is very different. When you look at the Middle East, and especially in pharma, it is heavily dominated traditionally here in the region by male Egyptian colleagues. I'll just be very blunt about it. So that historically has been the profile that organizations represent. But you see that when we actually changed our approach, and I gave the example of Egypt, when you change your approach and you change the leadership team to be a 50-50 representation, male-female, and not just what I would call the traditional roles, like not just HR as a female lead, but also look at business leaders of therapeutic areas, and you actually see growth of the organization very differently, where you have a single-digit to low double-digit growth in Egypt before, you're now at 20-25% growth of the organization. Amazing. And I think it's McKinsey numbers that show that organizations that have more accurate representation have a 25% more chance of higher profitability. And
exactly,
I think we're seeing that very clearly in the organizations where we are represented appropriately as Pfizer in our region as well.
Cool. We see a lot of companies pledge for achieving DEI result. What do you recommend for executives to make DEI part of their company DNA and ensure it's not just nice thing to do, but right thing to do for all?
Well, I think, for most executives, money talks, right? And then there's a second part to that sentence, but money talks. And I think if they understand that it is in their best interest of the organization to do so, they will. I think it also helps in a number of different areas, right? So it's not just the money, it's also you attract more talent because you open up a very different talent pool. You get different types of engagement in the organization. So your thinking broadens as an organization. It gets much deeper in the organization. You get different levels of interaction and projects that maybe you as an organization previously had not thought about. I think as a healthcare business, we're pretty far ahead. I heard some of the numbers, how long it would take in the Middle East to get to full gender parity, which was a bit shocking. But I think in healthcare, we already have numbers that are relatively high represented. When you look also at chairwomen of organizations in healthcare, you got GSK with a female CEO, you got CVS, you got
Sanofi. I met her in the
Sanofi.
event.
Yeah, so you have a lot of different female leaders in our industry already. The head of our pharmaceutical business, Angela Wang, for the longest time, I think is a very good example as well. So I think aside from the financials, there's also just an organizational culture and a drive to succeed that is very different if you manage your diversity activities appropriately.
Yeah, I think what I really liked about what you just said, yes, you can hire many people, many women into the organization, but it's equally important how you put them in a leadership position and give them representation to speak about the challenges or the opportunities for women. I think this is crucial, and what I see in the Middle East is women are stuck in the middle, and that's why as part of IWBD we are promoting for women to get leadership roles. And we are working with lots of executive headhunters. When we speak to them, they say like, where are those women? And in HBA event, I saw a room full of amazing women. And I think healthcare industry, as you just said, is leading the way. How you also, when the topic comes to DEI, like I saw there is no competition. This topic is beyond competition. And the room was full of amazing women leaders.
Yeah. I gave an example there, though, as well. And this will probably make you smirk. But I recently had an opening for a general manager position in the Gulf. And I had 550 applications, and less than 50, I think 25 or 30 were female. And on the male side, everybody from a Supreme Court judge in Egypt to the mailman to an ice cream delivery person almost would apply for this role and feel that they are able to be a general manager in Pfizer, the largest pharmaceutical company in the world. And females, and even people in our organization that you then tap on the shoulder and say, hey, why don't you apply? Well, I may have 80-90% of the skills required, but I don't have exactly everything. Whereas with the men, if they have 10 or 20%, they just go for these roles. So I think part of it is what the organization can do, but part of it, what the organization can do as well, is make sure that you build up the confidence for women to take on more challenging roles. And we had some amazing examples in the room a couple of weeks ago with the HBA event. But I think the guts in going for roles where you would maybe not expect to get a chance, but then get the opportunity to apply for and understand what it is that you need to develop is very important.
I mean, this is an amazing example to encourage women to apply roles. Like if you are fitting, let's say, at least 50%, just go ahead and do it. Exactly. Same thing, I think, true for negotiating the salaries. So I had attended Stanford Executive Education Program, and in the negotiation skills session, I saw these study results that, it's showing 10% of women, only 10% negotiate their salaries when they receive the salary package, whereas 90% of men negotiate their salaries. And I'm doing a social test in the Middle East. Wherever I attend an event or where the topic comes to this, all the men, for my percentage or analysis, looks like 100% men in the Middle East actually negotiate their salaries. So
it's true.
So women needs to take, I think, more courage to take the steps to apply a job, negotiate their salaries. Actually, it's showing their values, what they can bring to the table.
And don't care what they think, what they may think of you because you do that.
Exactly.
Right? Because I think that's what comes into play very often as well.
Yeah. Game time.
Okay.
So now we are going to play a game. So I have these positivity cards.
Okay.
Please pick one and share your reflection. And maybe there's a story behind whether you are applying this in your life or not. Let's see.
Oh, I do. Sorry, it's your life is what you make it.
Wow.
I think very apt to today. No, absolutely true. I am from the Netherlands originally, right? Like I said, I did my thesis on the emergence of the generics industry in Mexico. Worked for a while in the Netherlands, but then my wife and I picked up our 3-year-old and 5-year-old and quit our jobs, traveled for a year in Southeast Asia. When we came back, we decided, okay, the kids are like potted plants, so they're out of the soil. We can put them somewhere else. So we moved to Canada. We moved from Canada to the US in different roles. We moved from the US to Hong Kong to Thailand, back to Hong Kong to Japan. Now we're in Dubai. But I am from a town in the Netherlands. It's like, and Americans would call it Shitsville, right? It's very, very small town in the Netherlands. I don't have a A-list college degree, but I said yes to every opportunity that came our way. And we decided as a family, this is what we want to do and this is what we want to make of it. So I think we talked about this as well. It's often very difficult for women to take a job. Let's say you're based in Gulf now, but I offer you country manager in Morocco. It's very difficult for male partners very often to follow, right? And I've seen that with previous country managers that we had in Gulf, female country managers, where the men think it's okay for them to move with the female, but after a year, 2 years, it just doesn't work. So I think that's an extra barrier for a lot of women. So it makes things a little bit more difficult, but
I'm
you
lucky.
do need to.
I have a good partner.
That's super. But I do agree. Life is what you make it, and grab the opportunities, grab the adventure.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this reflection and the personal story there. Let's go to the human side of the questions. If you were a brand, which brand would you be and why?
So I asked my wife yesterday at dinner as well, because I had been thinking about it for honestly a long time, over an hour, like building my story.
You're not alone. All my guests who came here said the same thing. I asked my husband and he didn't give me an answer. Like, you know me forever. Like
it took my wife a fraction of a second
wow.
to give me an answer. First she said, what kind of question? Oh, you're a Twix. I said, why Twix? You're soft on the outside, crunchy on the inside, but you have the caramel that keeps the organization together.
Wow, love
so
that.
So it was literally like that with her. I'm like, wow, I should have called you this afternoon before I spent an hour thinking about it. So for me, when I thought about it, I was like, okay, I respect and like tradition, but I also like innovation. I have a certain style, whether people like it or not, and I think my personal brand is such that gets recognized. I have a preference for mechanical over electronic things. Mm-hmm. So my personal brand, what I came to, was Vespa, because classic style, very recognizable, but they also make now electric vehicle scooters. So there is innovation there, but there's a hunkering for tradition and a more traditional way of doing things as well.
If you were going to create a new brand, what product would that be, or what service would that be, and what would be your brand promise?
So I think building on my experience, I just mentioned all the places that I've lived, but a lot of my career has been spent in emerging markets, whether it be Latin America, whether it be Asia Pacific, whether it be now Africa, Middle East, and Russia, Caucasus, Central Asia. So my kind of dream role in that sense would be a small supporting small organizations that already have existing business. It could be that they have an existing sale in pharma in Japan, or they have an existing sale in the US, and they want to get into emerging markets and not just work with the first available distributor, what you very often see, but really figure out what is the best for the business in these different parts of emerging markets. Where do you need to go with a more charity type of proposal in order to make a business side of your proposal somewhere else? I think I have the expertise there. So I really think a business in that part of pharma is something that at some point I really would like to do. And because it's emerging markets and it's business, the brand promise, because I was thinking, okay, it needs to be short, it needs to be snappy. And at first I was writing like a 5-sentence brand. That's not a brand promise, but emerge your business because of emerging markets.
Wow, love that. Simple, short, sweet.
Yeah.
Define me your type of good vibes and your definition of good life.
I think for me and for my wife, I think you already saw like adventure, taking on different challenges is definitely part of what we like. We also like to give back, right? Whether it is to charities or volunteering or other things. And I think our daughter is an excellent representation of that. She's more in the NGO side of things, and that's very much a reflection of how we think about these things as well. Self-development, important as well. I just finished yesterday, actually, as I was preparing, I got the email from INSEAD that I graduated my development program for international board director.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So if anybody has a board position, please let me know. No, but it's the self-development, giving back, adventure really is for us what is the good vibes and the good life. We talked a little bit before we started here about all the travels and just exploring. That really is our thing.
Enjoying the moment and discovering the world.
Always the moment. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming. And for the memory of the day, I have this notebook. If you can write your thoughts while I'll do the conclusion.
I will.
As we conclude our program, today's discussion has shed light on the indispensable role of leadership in championing DEI with organizations. We've explored the importance of aligning company brand and purpose authentically with DEI values, emphasizing the need for tangible actions rather than mere rhetoric. Through real-world examples, we've seen the transformative impact of specific DEI initiatives on organizational culture and performance. As we navigate the path forward, it's clear that making DEI an integral part of company DNA requires dedication, continuous learning, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. Let's harness the insights gained today to create workplaces where every voice is valued, every individual thrive, and we create best places to work. Thank you for joining us. As GVGL Global Marketing Management, we look forward to empowering your brand journey as part of your go-to-market strategy. Stay tuned for more insights and inspiration, and thank you, Podster, for powering today's show.
So mighty all the time.